So, I'm basically going to talk to you guys about deciding on what imagery to use for designing your animated personal logo. Um, I'm going to give you some examples that you could use and show you some of the um, different choices that you have. So, the first thing that I wanted to show you guys is if I go to Photoshop and I have some individual layers here, I just used my portrait that we did earlier for the spontaneous portraiture assignment. It was a work of art that I finished, and it was a good, um, choice for having a personal logo. Obviously, my face. So, what you'll see here in the layers palette is that my very top layers are my photographic images, and I just used this photograph 5 times. And in between, I put a layer of gradients here. And then the other thing I did is in each of these image layers, I actually did something called changing the blending mode. And what that means is, and this is visible both in Photoshop and Photo P, is that in every layer that you have the ability to uh, change the blending mode from normal to something different. And the more you practice with these blending modes, the more you'll see what they do. But those flashes of color changes are due to the fact that in every self portrait that I dropped in here, every copy of it, I have a different blending mode. So this one's called screen. This one is darker color. And you know what? You guys aren't seeing it change just because there's all these other layers stacked on top. But I'm just pointing out that these are all different blending modes, and that's what's causing that kind of flashing and color changes and contrast changes in my animation. The blending modes is responsible for that. Plus, the incorporation of my gradients also do that as well. So this is a multiply, and this one I just left as normal. So experiment with these, just like you guys were experimenting with the different ways type could go across your page. I varied my colors a little bit with my gradients, you'll see as well. So all of that stuff is sitting on top of my animated type. You can build your file in a separate layer, your image file. You can build your images in a separate file, and then we can always copy and drag these layers on top of your animated type that you did, or you can continue building all in one document. It's really up to you. Uh, if you like working with, if you're okay with working with lots and lots of layers stacked, then go ahead and just keep building on top of the file where you have your words, and you won't have to move anything over later. But if you like to keep it nice and simple, maybe we could do our images in a separate layer and then combine the files later. That's pretty easy to do. And I can help you guys with that. So, of course, we've got still images that we can work with, and all of my blending modes helped create that color change and the contrast change as that animation loops over and over again. However, these images do not need to be just one still image. If you want to get a little bit more complicated, it's really not that much more complicated. You could actually do a series of portraits where you are changing maybe the way you pose. So I'm going to show you guys a bunch of files that I already created here. These are really ridiculous, but I just sat at my webcam one day and I actually took a bunch of self portraits, and then I went in here and I actually edited these self portraits with something called actions. It's basically I set up a bunch of gradients and color changes to put some special effects over my pictures. So you don't have to add the special effects, but that's an option if you want. So if I just go back, if you want to just use straightforward pictures like you're seeing here, that's fine. I am going to put a video in this post that shows you how to create an action and in the click of one button be able to process every single picture that you use. So if you're somebody that wants to create you know, multiple images where you're posing in a slightly different pose for each shot, then you should come up with a series of, I would say even 5 images would work good for this. As you can see, I actually have 11 pictures in here. That is a lot. But you really don't even need that much. If you wanted to do 5 selfies where maybe you're just looking in different directions, then 5 would suffice for this, I'm sure. So before I actually show you guys how I put all this together, I want to just show you maybe some options. We know what this one looks like. Let me just see if I can go and play it for you guys, just as a reminder. So here it is again. And again, all that sort of flashing right here at this point, that's all the blending modes. Contrast, color changes, the blending modes are doing that in the animation. And I'm just using that still picture and tweaking it a little bit in each layer to get that effect. So again, choice 1 would be to work with just a still picture. You can certainly draw from this assignment that we did. It's done, it's ready to go. You could pop it in very easily. Or if you quickly want to take a whole bunch of selfies on your webcam, that actually does not take all that much time either. So that would be a second choice. A third choice would be if you didn't want to use a self-portrait, you could get a prop. I know like some of the props I have in here, I have these little Matchbox cars, right? Maybe you could have the car kind of driving across your screen along with your animated type. So if you wanted to use a prop instead, you could take a short series of photographs, maybe 5 of whatever prop. The key is to keep the camera in the same place when you're doing that. And of course, maybe the best way to do that is to have your camera on some kind of tripod so that it doesn't move and you're not changing the entire frame. The reason why a webcam works is because you're just sitting at your computer and your computer is nice and still. And then everything behind you is just uniform and doesn't affect, the animation. So those are some considerations. So let's see. I want to show you guys some animations that I have done. These are a group of animations. I have this Vimeo channel that I've been using, but I'm just gonna play these because I do a lot of animating with multiple pictures, and then I put them into video timelines, and I also incorporate music. So when I'm dragging my still images into Photoshop for this, I create the animation in Photoshop and then I drag the animation into a video timeline, and then I've got the ability to put soundtracks on it. So if I just play this, this one's really short, but I basically did these on my webcam. Okay, so that was actually probably a series of, possibly 100 pictures. And then it doesn't have to be very, high res. This one right here also has some music, and it's not quite as sharp, but I did a lot of, this one was much bigger, and there might be well over 100 pictures for this. So again, this is what it would look like if you were to choose the option of doing multiple portraits where you're moving a little bit each time. And basically, I just shot these pictures on my webcam. Pretty simplistic, not a fancy camera, and it was effective overall, I would say. Okay, so let's get back to Photoshop here. Actually, I think the best thing to do is, in an attempt to make this not too long, that's basically the introduction here, for thinking about your imagery. I'm going to end it here, and then I think what I'll do is I'll do a separate video for putting these portraits together, whether you decide to do a still picture, one still image, or whether you decide to do a series of pictures that you may have taken on your webcam or with another camera.